The rabbit's shadow. Have you ever wondered about the secret lives some people lead, far beyond what you see on the surface? Imagine a kid growing up in a tough neighborhood, seemingly ordinary, but hiding a secret life of danger and high-stakes games. This is the shocking story of Gregory Stewart, a young man who earned the nickname Rabbit, not for being cute and fluffy, but for his incredible speed and cunning. He tumbled into a life so complex, so full of twists and turns, that it might just leave you breathless. How did a boy from New Orleans find himself at the heart of a strong group, involved in so many unbelievable events? Get ready, because Rabbit's story is about to unfold, revealing a path he took filled with both daring moves and devastating consequences. Chapter 1. Childhood on the Edge. Our story begins in the 9th Ward of New Orleans, a place where Gregory Stewart, known as Rabbit, spent his early years. He lived on a street called the G Strip, a community that taught him quick lessons about survival. School was a part of his life for a while, but as the beef around him grew more serious, Rabbit realized he couldn't stay. He left Douglas High School when he was just 16, not because he didn't like learning, but as the streets were calling him into a different, much more dangerous kind of education. His unique nickname, Rabbit, wasn't given to him by friends teasing him about his speed on the playground. No, this nickname came from a thrilling escape. One late night on the G Strip, police surrounded a car he was in. Rabbit, holding something he shouldn't have, was grabbed, slammed to the ground, and knocked out cold. But just when they thought they had him, he sprang up, darted away, and managed to ditch the thing he was carrying, disappearing into the night. From that day on, his friends called him Rabbit, a name that echoed his ability to vanish when danger was near. But even before this daring escape, Rabbit had already stepped into a secret life. Can you believe he started his hustle when he was just 11 years old? While other kids were playing games, Rabbit was selling stuff, small packages of weed and crack, just enough to buy new shoes for school or have a little money in his pocket. It felt normal where he grew up, a way to take care of himself. And here's another surprising twist. To make extra money, Rabbit would put bottle caps on his shoes and tap dance on Bourbon Street, creating rhythms to earn coins. Who would have thought a kid involved in such risky business still had a hidden talent for dancing? But selling small packages was just the beginning. The streets were about to open up, leading Rabbit down a path of much larger and more serious dealings, and what happened next would shock everyone, including himself. Chapter 2. The Heroine Highway. Around the age of 15, Rabbit was introduced to a new, much bigger operation, the Heroine Highway. He started getting his packages from older guys like Breezy and Slugger, who saw something special in the young, fearless Rabbit. As he looked so small and innocent like a child, they asked him to do something incredibly risky: travel all the way to Houston to pick up packages on a Greyhound bus. The police would never expect a kid like him to be carrying such important cargo, right? Rabbit, always looking for a way to make money, agreed without a second thought. These weren't just simple trips. They were carefully planned operations. First, they would load a suitcase full of money in New Orleans. The Greyhound bus station there apparently didn't check bags too closely. Someone would get on the bus with the money, ride all the way to Houston, and meet Rabbit and his crew at a hotel. There, an old lady would arrive in a cab, pick up the money, and then take another cab to get the packages, so police wouldn't pull them over if they found large amounts of cash in a car. Once she returned with the packages, another important step followed: testing the product with a guy named Willie Bill to make sure it was good. Getting the packages back to New Orleans was just as tricky. They would carefully wrap the stuff in tape and then hide it in their clothes or in brief boxes in their drawers. They knew that bus station guards would use a wand to check for metal, but they wouldn't pat down their bodies or search their underwear. So, with the packages hidden close, they would sit on the bus all the way back to New Orleans, ready for the next step. Once back, the kitchen secrets were revealed. To make even more money, they would stretch the product by mixing it with something called chop or mannitol. It was like magic, turning a smaller amount into much more. They'd use a skillet to burn off the trash and turn it into a liquid, then add a few drops of root beer food dye to give it a beige color, making it look like the straight off the boat, pure stuff. After freezing it until it looked like a marble, they'd use a blender to turn it back into powder, then press it together so it looked untouched. When someone tested it by putting it on a spoon, it would turn into a dark liquid, just like a popular soda, making everyone believe it was top quality. This intricate process meant big money, and with big money came strong alliances, setting the stage for even more dramatic events. But with alliances, sometimes old friendships shatter, leading to dangerous rivalries. Chapter 3. The Rise of the 39ers. As Rabbit's involvement grew, so did his network. Soon he was part of something bigger. The 39ers, a dominant team that brought together groups from different neighborhoods. It wasn't just the G Strip anymore. They were linked with crews from the Florida Project and 3rd and G. Together, they were a force, quickly becoming known for their ability to move packages and make a lot of money. Leaders like Breezy and Merle were at the top, and Rabbit was a key player, connecting everyone and making sure the business kept flowing. Even when one of their key figures, a guy named Lil from 3rd and G, went away for a while, he made sure Rabbit would make sure they straight with other members, keeping the team strong. The 39ers didn't just quietly handle their business, they loved to show off their success. You wouldn't believe the parties they threw. Merle, one of the main leaders, even had a massive retirement party, supposedly to celebrate him stepping away from the business. But it was really a huge show of influence and wealth. They rode around in limousines, flexing stacks of cash they'd brought from the casino. At the party, Merle displayed an unbelievable $100,000 in crisp hundreds. There was even an ice sculpture with money inside. And if that wasn't enough, a famous rapper, Nut the Kid, performed, showing just how far their influence reached. It was a clear message to everyone. The 39ers were on top, and they were here to stay. Their ambition didn't stop at parties. They started making music videos, showcasing their lifestyle and their crew, turning their dangerous activities into a kind of public spectacle. They were bold, fearless, and quickly becoming legends in their own minds. But in their place, struggles for control were never far away. Old friendships could break, new rivalries could spark, and every show of strength could trigger an even more intense conflict. What happened next would reveal just how fragile those bonds could be. Chapter 4. Broken Bonds and Bloody Turf. Not all stories in Rabbit's life ended with celebrations. A simmering feud had been brewing, connecting Slugger and Breezy. Slugger felt Breezy hadn't kept it real while he was away, meaning he didn't take care of his family or business. This betrayal fueled a deep anger. Another close friend, Lewis Daniels, a man who taught Rabbit many of his brutal lessons, was too furious with Breezy. Louis wanted Breezy to take care of a witness in his own murder case, but Breezy refused. Rabbit, caught in the middle, tried to stay neutral at first, but in this life, picking a side was unavoidable. Finally, he chose Breezy and Merle. The tension exploded dramatically one day when Louis came to the G Strip, openly declaring he was there to hurt someone. As Louis jumped out of a car with a loud instrument, he aimed toward Breezy's sister. But Rabbit, thinking fast, shoved her out of the way, saving her from harm. Louis, seeing his target escape, jumped back in his car and sped off. This moment solidified Rabbit's loyalty, plunging him deeper into the conflict. Then came the shocking Wing Shack incident on April 12, 2010. Rabbit and his crew were hanging out by the Wing Shack, a usual spot, when suddenly, Slugger's group, including Gutter, Cole, and Bo, pulled up and opened fire. It was a fierce attack, and in the chaos, two of Rabbit's friends, Cheddar Black and Derek Gucci Man, were lost. Rabbit, furious and fueled by revenge, ran to grab his own loud instrument, Breezy's Kel-Tec 223. He immediately joined Merle and Breezy in their pursuit. They chased the attackers, and in the heat of the moment, Merle accidentally shot Rabbit in the arm. Despite his injury, Rabbit continued, catching up to Gutter's car. He emptied the clip on Gutter, making sure he was punished. Cole and Bo managed to get away. When police arrived at the hospital, Rabbit, cunning as ever, lied about where he got his injury, creating a false story to cover his tracks. This act of defiance only escalated the bloodshed, spreading their dangerous game across the city and ensuring that every move would be met with an even more violent response. Chapter 5: A Trail of Retaliation. The cycle of revenge continued relentlessly. Just a couple of months before the Wing Shack shootout, in February 2010, one of Woody's partners, Percy, was seriously injured by a rival from the Press Park gang. Rabbit, always ready to ride for his friends, was furious that Woody seemed scared. So a few days later, he, Pound, Woody, and Rail, Jasmine Perry, launched a calculated act of revenge. They used 2 stolen cars with Rabbit and Pound in one carrying an AK-47, and Woody and Rail in the other with a chopper and a Glock. They stalked their targets in Bunker Hill. When they saw a green Monte Carlo, they didn't hesitate. Surprisingly, with a girl in the car, Rabbit urged them to attack, showing how ruthless they could be. The driver was punished, and Rabbit managed to avoid being arrested for this brutal act. The tensions continued. In March 2010, another close call happened when McCoy Walker, known as Rat, mistakenly shot a guy named Elton thinking he was Slugger. Elton was in Gutter's car, which they thought belonged to Slugger. Evans quickly went to the hospital to make sure Elton wouldn't talk, making sure the secret stayed with them. In April 2010, Rabbit and his crew found themselves in another chaotic shootout outside a teen club. Jasmine Perry, hanging out the back of a Cadillac truck, was firing an AK. When police followed them, Rabbit and Pound quickly stashed their loud instruments in a store aisle, escaping with minor charges like a suspended license for Rabbit. But the deadliest acts of revenge were yet to come. Just a month after the Wing Shack incident, in May 2010, Rabbit, T-Red, and Leroy tracked a car they believed belonged to Bo's girlfriend. They thought Bo, one of the guys who had attacked them at the Wing Shack, was driving. T-Red, without hesitation, opened fire, punishing the driver. They later found out it wasn't Bo, but Donald Daniels, his cousin. They took care of him anyway, simply as he was from the Desire side. They even celebrated this cold act by going to Miami for a long weekend. That same month, on May 11th, Rabbit and Pound took revenge on the Ride or Die gang for shooting up their car. They used a police car, a blue Taurus they called the Homicide. Rabbit, armed with his Carbon 15, and Pound with Breezy's Kel-Tec 223, found their target sitting on a porch. They shot him up until he was gone, then calmly drove off as if nothing happened. The cycle of violence didn't stop. Later in May, Rabbit, Leroy, and Evans tracked a guy named Maul, a rival they believed had taken care of their friend AP. They found him near a courthouse, a busy public place. Rabbit, T-Red, and Rat used the same 2 loud instruments from the Rod Dude murder. They drove up, fired through the windshield, and shot him up in broad daylight. They still celebrated by making shirts with Maul's picture that said, "Laugh now, cry later." The violence continued, touching more lives, even those seemingly protected by their team. Chapter 6: Unseen Enemies and Calculated Moves. The 39ers continued their ruthless campaign, with every move a calculated response to perceived threats. In December 2010, Merle ordered a hit on a guy named Jerome Hampton, also known as Man-Man, who had supposedly threatened him. Rabbit, along with Freaky, T-Red, and Rat, took on this mission. They used a police car, a white Crown Vic, and an array of loud instruments, including Rabbit's Glock 40, Rat's 9mm, and T-Red's chopper. They even had a stranger buy them a cigar from a gas station to avoid leaving their faces on camera. They tracked Man-Man to an apartment complex where he was with Magnolia Shorty. All 4 team members opened fire, emptying their clips until Man-Man and Magnolia Shorty were gone. It was a precise, brutal attack, designed to send a clear message. Just 2 months later, in February 2011, Rabbit and Willie Bill punished a guy named Calvin Celestine, or Plucky, as he was playing both sides, trying to work with both. Breezy and the rival Desire Gang. Rabbit received a reward of packages and $9,000 for this act. In a shocking twist, Rabbit still wore a t-shirt with Plucky's face on it to Plucky's funeral, a chilling display of their dangerous code. The cycle of violence escalated further on February 20th, 2011, at a DJ party on the G-Strip. Rabbit was resting in a car, angry about a different plan that didn't go his way, when Pooney rushed over yelling that June, little John Haynes, was in the yard. Rabbit had been looking for June, who had robbed one of his customers. Evans, too, wanted June gone for taking care of a friend named Giz. Everyone sprang into action. Rabbit, Evans, Pooney, Saul, and Rail jumped into a white Impala, another police car. Rabbit switched his Glock 40 for Rail's .223 with monkey nuts, a 100-round drum. Evans, driving, rolled up on June, who put his hands up, mistaking them for police. Evans then shot June with a .410 handgun. Rabbit leaped out, stood over June, and emptied his clip. Pooney, Rail, and Saul, too, fired, ensuring June was taken care of. Afterward, they calmly parked the car and walked back to the party as if nothing had happened, before police shut down the celebration later. The revenge continued in May 2011, after their friend G-Baby was taken care of by the Calliope gang. Rabbit, AD, and Wash, the driver, jumped into Breezy's Infinity M35. Rabbit had G-Baby's own chopper, AK-47, and AD had a .223. They drove into the Calliope projects. When they found their target on a porch with other young men, AD opened fire. When one person fell, Rabbit stepped over him and continued shooting to finish the job, ensuring he was truly punished. Money, G-Baby's brother, was overwhelmed with emotion and thanked Rabbit for the deadly revenge. Their targets weren't always taken care of completely. In May 2011, Rabbit, Wash, Pooney, and Rail tried to punish a guy named Al Hardy, who had taken care of a friend and then threatened the G-Strip. Rabbit even got out of the car saying Rail does dumb shit sometimes. They used a handgun and an AK-47, but Al Hardy survived. Another attempt that month was on Kendrick Smothers. Rabbit owed Kendrick $7,000 from a bad drug trip to Texas where his money was lost. Rabbit called Kendrick, pretending to pay him back, setting him up for a brutal attack. Rabbit, Rail, and Evans were in a black Infinity. Evans shot Kendrick in the face, and Rail stood over him with an AK-47, firing repeatedly. Yet, Kendrick survived. Rabbit was furious that he was still on the hook for the blame. The consequences of this life were about to catch up to Rabbit, forcing his fight for freedom to take a very different and unexpected turn. Conclusion: The Rabbit's Reckoning. The dangerous path Rabbit had chosen finally led to a reckoning. After the attempted hit on Kendrick Smothers, Rabbit learned he was wanted by the authorities. He spent about a month on the run, trying to evade capture. He got new phones, even snuck back to New Orleans for a fake ID, and once, during a close call in Miami, he still disguised himself with a Haitian dress wig, hiding on the beach. But finally, in Atlanta, the law caught up to him. He was arrested, wig and fake ID in hand, and his life on the run came to an abrupt end. Now in jail, Rabbit faced a stark choice. At first, he wasn't cooperative, trying to deny his involvement. But as the weight of the charges pressed down, he began to negotiate with the authorities. He wrote letters to the U.S. Attorney, Maurice Landrieu, and spoke with FBI agents, including John Wood. He offered information about the 39ers, detailing their drug operations and the many violent acts he had witnessed or participated in. He admitted to being involved in the lives of Magnolia Shorty, Jerome Hampton, Quelton Broussard, Gutter, Kelvin Celestine, Plucky, and Gregory Keys, Smokey. His cooperation wasn't without struggle. He tried to manipulate the situation, lying to protect his friends like T-Red, and still tried to get a better deal for himself, hoping for a sentence of 7 to 15 years and a safe prison. He still tried to use the agents to sneak marijuana into jail, thinking he could still make money. He lied to his family and girlfriends, telling them he'd be home soon, offering false hope to keep them from stressing or leaving him. He even asked for a witness protection program, fearing retaliation for his cooperation. He just wanted his family, especially his mother, to be safe, leading the government to still help relocate her. Despite his attempts to control his fate, the truth finally emerged, the full, shocking story of his life. In the end, the consequences of his choices were immense. Gregory Rabbit Stewart, the quick-witted kid from the G-Strip, was finally sentenced to 4 life sentences plus 20 years. His story is a harsh reminder of the high cost of a dangerous path. It leaves us with a powerful question. What lessons can be learned from Rabbit's journey about the choices we make, the loyalties we keep, and the unpredictable, often devastating consequences that can follow?